They can stay underwater for 20 minutes. That is crazy. So the main reason they can do this is because they have this thing called a diving reflex, and you actually have this too. So like we talked about today, exponential growth, humans have been exponentially growing, and our population is starting to hit the carrying capacity for the Earth. We don't need to want to exterminate the humans from the earth or anything crazy like that. It is our job and our role as God's creatures to be the ones who are in authority over the earth, which means clean water, clean air, enough food for everyone. Could we do a better job keeping the earth clean? Absolutely, and we should try to do that. So this has led to some rather strange... Oh, chocolate sundae. It's just a chocolate sundae, guys. What's the big deal? Pretty sure that cameraman was about to barf in his own mouth. Redeem Academy. Yo, what is up, science penguins? Welcome to Redeem Academy. My name is Johnny. I am here to help you get the most out of your education while giving God all the glory he deserves. We are on lesson 2 today of our ecology unit. It's going to be all about populations, and we're going to be making it all about the mighty penguin today. The 3 things I'll be going over today are how to think about population growth, how to think about population size, and 4 factors that affect the size of a population. Big question today, what is a Christian perspective on a large and growing human population? And if you need a notebook to follow along with, you can get one at redeemacademy.org. Now, every penguin you see in today's video is subscribed to my channel. If you aren't, push it, push it. All right, let's get started with my favorite penguin activity. It's sledding. I don't know if you can tell, but they can just lay down on their stomach and kick those feet and just start coasting. Man, that looks like a good time. They've got a nice insulatory layer of blubber, also known as fat, that helps pad them, I think. But you gotta have a good slope. A little downslope, I'm sure, helps. Now this specimen right here is called an emperor penguin because he is the largest penguin. What's most amazing about penguins is their ability to swim. Check this out.
But to maintain it, they need to hunt, diving longer and deeper than any other penguin. They hold their breath for up to 20 minutes at a time to maximize their chance of finding food and building up their vital fat stores.
They can stay underwater for 20 minutes. That is crazy. So the main reason they can do this is because they have this thing called a diving reflex, and you actually have this too. When you put your face in cold water, your heart rate actually slows down. It'd be kind of a fun experiment to do at home. You got to get your pulse, regular pulse, and then get a bowl of cold water, stick your face in it, and you will actually see your pulse go down while you stick your face in cold water. But for penguins, their heart rate drops dramatically. There are other adaptations they have as well. They have a large blood volume, which means they can store more oxygen in their blood. And they have a lot of hemoglobin's cousin, myoglobin. And myoglobin is a lot like hemoglobin, but it lives in the myo, which is the science word for muscle. And so they also store oxygen in their muscles while they're underwater. And so all of these things allow them to stay underwater for like 20 minutes at a time while they're hunting for fish. What an amazing thing that a bird is more like a fish than a bird.
But all that bulk comes at a price and poses an interesting problem. How does a bird, the same weight as a baby hippo, get itself back out of the water?
So this is what's amazing. They dive down, they hunt for 20 minutes, but then they come up there for air and they catch their breath and breathe for a while. Then they go back down for one more dive and then swim as fast as they can, and look at how they pop out of the water.
A recent...
Oh, I love that shot. Flying penguin. That's as much flying as they can do. So today's notes are about population growth. So I am going to do a little thought experiment with you about penguins. There are 2 basic types of population growth. There's what's called exponential growth, which is what we see in this curve right here. and there's what's called logistic growth, which is what we see in this curve here. Now notice that on the x-axis, like a timeline, we have time. So this represents time passing. And notice that the size of the population is on the y-axis. So this represents the population getting bigger. All right, here's my thought experiment. There are no penguins at the North Pole. Have you ever noticed that about Santa Claus? No penguins. What's up with that? They've got reindeer, they've got elves, they've got candy canes, they've got a narwhal, they've got polar bears. We're gonna have to get rid of the polar bears because they're gonna eat the penguins. They've got an abominable snowman, also probably need to get rid of him, turn him into a vegetarian. We'll just convince him to be a vegetarian. But they have no penguins. So we're gonna get rid of the predators, but we're gonna drop 24 penguins in, all adults, 12 girls, 12 boys, and we're gonna have them establish a population of penguins. But we're gonna say that the environment can only support around 10,000. There's only enough food to eat there for 10,000. And we're gonna graph what happens as their population grows. All right, here it is, the North Pole penguin experiment. Okay, so we had 24, now we're at 29, now we're at 34. This is every year. Next up, we're at 41, 49, 100. Wow, we are now entering what's called an exponential growth phase. You can see that the population's going up really fast. From 100 to 200. In 1 year, we went from 100 penguins to 200 penguins. All right, we're continuing to grow exponentially. We just went from 200 to 400, 400 to 800, 800 to 1600. So basically, the population is doubling every year. And 1,600 to 3,000, that's a little less than double, and 3,000 to 5,000. So we're really starting to slow down now. So what we now have in front of us is called an exponential growth curve. Okay, so we're going to color this whole thing green because green means go. And during this phase, the population is going. Now, notice that that is also the phase right here. So an exponential growth phase is when a population size increases rapidly, gets bigger and faster over time when resources are unlimited. This is what happens early in a population's life when it first comes into a new ecosystem where it's really thriving. But this is not a realistic long-term population growth pattern. So as there's 5,000 penguins in this environment now, food is going to start running out. Now check out this crazy equation. I wish I could pretend like I know how to build equations like this. I don't. But population ecologists do. And this big number right here, 10,000, represents what's called carrying capacity, which is just saying, hey, this habitat can only support about 10,000 penguins. And so as we continue to pump penguins into the environment's saying, hey, these penguins are going to start not succeeding as much and their growth rate is going to start to decline. So check this out. We go from 5,100 to 7,300. That's still a big jump, but that's not a doubling anymore. And so we're starting to see the growth rate slow down. And oh, we went from 7,300 to 8,800, 8,800 to 9,900, 99 to 10,000, and we've totally flattened out at this point. And now we're actually dipping and bouncing around. And we're just going to hang out at 10,000 now because we've capped out. We can't keep any more penguins alive at this rate. And so our environment's only going to be able to support 10,000 penguins-ish. So now we go back to this part of the graph, and we're going to start coloring it red until it flattens out because the brakes are going on. Okay, so in this green area, we're going to label it growth rate increasing. And the red area, we're going to label growth rate decreasing. This dotted line right here is called carrying capacity. And that's just a fancy term for how many individuals can the environment support. And then once we hit about here to here, I'm going to color that blue because blue for me means peace. We are stable. So all of these things together are called a logistic growth curve. And in a logistic growth curve, the population grows quickly, exponential at the start, but then slows and levels off as resources become limited. And remember that dotted line on the graph represents the largest number of individuals the environment can support, and that's based on food and water and space, and that's called carrying capacity. All right, wipe the sweat off your brow. That was some intense graphical analysis. And as a bonus, we probably upset some hippies because we just established penguins at the North Pole, and all the Earth muffins don't want us to touch anything about the Earth. All right, now it's time to talk about things that affect the growth of a population. There are 4 things that can make a population grow or shrink. First one, birth. All right, here we go. 4 factors that affect population growth. First one, births. All right, look at that precious little dumpling right there. Did you know that emperor penguins have a very strange life cycle? The ice moves during the seasons. So the birds have to walk like 75 miles to get to land, or something like land, before they have the baby. So then the mom and dad have the baby at their breeding site, and the mom gives the egg to the dad, and he holds the egg on his feet. And if he drops the egg, it's so cold, the egg will freeze or lose enough temperature to where the baby dies. So dad has to balance this egg on his feet for like 2 months, and mom goes back to the ocean to eat. And so for the worst part of the winter, dad is kind of like hibernating, but keeping the baby warm on his feet for like 2 months. And then when the baby hatches, mom comes back and they take turns feeding the baby until the baby is ready to get in the water, at which point the ice is retreating because it's summer. And then hopefully everything turns out just right so that when the baby's ready to jump in the water, it's been fed enough by its parents and it's ready to start being a penguin in the water. Let me show you some videos of this. So baby bird is very hungry, and when we are hungry, we are desperate. And mom wants her baby to be quiet, and when we want our baby to be quiet, we're desperate. So this has led to some rather strange... Oh. Chocolate sundae. It's just a chocolate sundae, guys. What's the big deal? Pretty sure that cameraman was about to barf in his own mouth. So that is what they feed their baby penguin for 4 to 5 months. Delicious.
What on earth is going on here?
Now at some point the baby penguins have had enough of the puke and they decide, I'm moving out and I'm gonna go buy my own.
Where are these chicks going?
And you can see some of them are starting to lose their baby feathers and they're starting to look like real penguins. And this is about a 50-foot cliff and there's only one way down. Get it. Nice. Pretty soon they all start jumping. You know what my mom used to say? If your friends all jumped off an iceberg, would you? In this case, the right answer is yes. So not all baby penguins make it, not all adult penguins make it, and so other factors that affect the growth of the population include deaths, and if somehow other penguins move into the population, we call that immigration. And if penguins move out of the population, notice the word population here, the arrow's going in. Notice the word population here, the arrow's coming out. In ecology, there's actually a different word for moving out of a population than moving in. It's called emigration with an E. And I always think of the word E equals exit. So 4 factors that affect population growth. New individuals being born, it's called births. Pretty straightforward. Individuals dying, it's called deaths. When individuals move into the area, immigration. And when individuals move out of the area, emigration. All right, now one last thing we can talk about when we talk about populations is how dense they are. And density in science usually is a word we use in physical science that compares how much mass there is in a given space. But in the most general term, the word density can just mean how much stuff there is in a given amount of space. Okay, so anything in a given amount of space can mean density. Okay, so here are some examples of density. These represent particles of maybe a gas or a solid and in a cube. And so on the left, we have low density, not very many particles per space. And on the right, we have high density, lots of particles packed in there. Okay, here we have smog in a city. And on one day, it kind of blends into the other day. On one day, you have lots of smog. That's a high density of smog. On another day, it's a clean day. It just rained, the wind blew through, and you have low density. Okay, traffic. I'm so glad to live in a small town. You go to a big city, depending on what time of day it is, and you might have low density, 11 a.m., but if you try to go home at 5 o'clock, you have high density. Pollutants in the water, okay? This is also called turbidity in science. So you have high density of pollutants in the water, or you have low density of pollutants in the water. Housing, okay? If you live out in the country like I do, you got what's on the right. You got one house every acre or two. If you live in a big city, you got houses on top of houses. High density of houses, low density of houses. So when it comes to population density in ecology, we're talking about the number of individuals living in a certain area per space. That's called population density. And this takes us back to our penguins on the iceberg. This is a dense population, and this is a sparse population. Another way to say that is a lot of individuals in the ecosystem, high density, and very few individuals in the ecosystem, low density. All right, that brings us back to the big question. What is a Christian perspective on a large and growing human population? So I'm going to spend a little time on this today. Okay, now I want to show you a few clips. Young people, in the last 10 years, young people have been weaponized to act like humans are a parasite to the earth. Check this out. This girl's famous. She's about 10 years older now, but when she was maybe, I don't know, 14 or 15, she first got a lot of attention. Her name's Greta, and she's a political environmental activist.
Adults keep saying we owe it to the young people to give them hope, but I don't want your hope. I don't want you to be hopeful. I want you to panic.
We have been polluting the earth for years, and we might actually die in a few years.
Now just notice how messed up this is. Like, the news is interviewing, I don't know, 10, 12-year-olds about this, like as if a 12-year-old really has any idea what the state of the environment is. It's been very common lately that we look to 10, 12, 15-year-olds as like some of the leading voices on this issue. In what other political issue is a 15-year-old's opinion the most important opinion on the matter?
Our world is already in flames. It's getting hotter. We can't breathe.
We are here because our parents trashed the planet, and it's up to our generation to save it.
Unlike so many people my age, I feel really visceral anxiety about climate change.
Call us Generation Z, the last letter of the alphabet, because we are going to be the last generation to survive.
Did you hear that? He said, we're going to be the last generation that survives. So here's the sad thing. When you take God out of your life, people still have a strong desire for purpose, and they want a cause. They want a reason to exist. And these kids come out of America, or they come out of the European West, where our countries have sort of moved past God. And now people are looking for a purpose, a reason for existence. And somebody has given them the environment as the top reason for existence. And they've just sold them an absolute lie. And for some reason, kids are especially susceptible to this lie that, humans are about to destroy the earth.
Grab the children! Save the children!
Now, I love this guy, Jordan Peterson. He kind of summarizes the way people talk about humans almost like they're a parasite on the earth. Check this out.
I read my YouTube comments sometimes, and I've always been annoyed that, because I've heard like sort of radical, clueless environmentalists say things like the planet would be better off without people on it, which is something that, like, you just cannot say that. If you say that and listen to yourself, you should like go to a monastery for like 3 years and never say a word and have a shower every 10 minutes until you've learned your lesson properly. You can't utter a more genocidal phrase than that, and of course you always do it in a display of your care for the world. It's like, well, if we just didn't have any people, it's like, well, we'll just line them all up and shoot them with machine guns.
He's right. It's absolutely absurd. Like, people talk about humans like they're a parasite to the earth, and it'd be better if people didn't exist. For all of human history, people have been barely surviving. And now we're just starting to figure things out on the Earth. And these environmentalists expect us to just have it all figured out immediately, drop everything and save the planet, like the planet's ever done anything for us. It's so interesting when there are wrong ideas out there. It's not that they're 180 degrees wrong, it's that they're like 25 degrees wrong. Now here's a pastor who I love, just straightening out the direction.
The more important argument, I think, loving our neighbor as we love ourselves. I mean, I don't think the argument from the fact that this earth is going to be renovated someday into a new heavens is the best argument for why you should care about clean water. You care about clean water because you love your neighbor and your grandkids and people in general. You want to reduce suffering. The way I talk about our commitment to physical, social things and spiritual things is, at Bethlehem, I want us to care a lot about and work toward eliminating suffering, especially eternal suffering. That's the order. Suffering, like you drink this water, you get dysentery and you die. Well, no, let's fix that if we can.
What he's getting at, somebody asked him a question like, should we care for the environment? And he's like, well, yeah, but the reason we should care for the environment is not because the environment is the top priority, but humans are the top priority. Now, obviously, God is the top priority. So look what God said here in Genesis 1:26 about the earth and about man, because God is the one who makes the rules. Then God said, let us make man in our image after our likeness. And he goes on to say, have dominion over every creature. But then he says, and let them have dominion over all the earth. So the earth does not exist to be the earth. The earth exists for man to have dominion over it, for man to exist on it. So like we talked about today, exponential growth, humans have been exponentially growing for the last 400 years. And our population is starting to hit the carrying capacity for the earth. We don't need to want to exterminate the humans from the earth or anything crazy like that. It is our job and our role as God's creatures to be the ones who are in authority over the earth. And as part of our authority over the earth, we are supposed to care for it and take good care of it and make sure everyone is taken care of on the earth, which means clean water, clean air, enough food for everyone. But it doesn't mean this alarmism that's going on and has gone on, where we pretend like humans are a parasite to the earth and the earth would be better off if we didn't exist on the earth. That's wacky. So the fact that the human population has been growing on the earth is in line with what God commanded and desired for humans to do on the earth. Could we do a better job keeping the earth clean? Absolutely, and we should try to do that. Do we need to lose our minds and freak out and act like the world's coming to an end? No. Hey, I hope this has been a great lesson for you. Peace.